welcome one more time to my YouTube channel. Yes, you'll have to forgive my appearance today. I'm somewhat dishevelled and fatigued looking because just a couple of days ago we brought home a baby. But I've managed to peel myself away for a few minutes just to have a little tinker with some guitar stuff. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about this. This is a book. It's called Coming Unstuck, A Year in the Life of a Failed Funk Band. And it's written by this guy. It's called Joe Cullen. And this man happens to be my uncle, Uncle Joe. And it's kind of a bit of a work of faction, as he calls it. It's somewhat based on factual events that happened in Joe's life to do with him and bands and things that he's been in. I haven't had the chance to read it yet. I just have this advanced copy sent to me, signed by the author. There you go, see. And there's a little bit in this book actually about the time, or rather inspired by the time I went on the road with Joe's band. I was a solo act at the time, playing blues, guitar stuff, and they took me out on the road to Barcelona with them. And we had some fun and shenanigans out on the road. And yeah, part of this book is based on those events. So yeah, get yourself to Amazon this Friday and go and buy it. Right, so what are we doing? Treble Bleeds. Yeah, so I have this beautiful PRS S2 Custom 22, and I love these S2s because they're nice and simple and straightforward, but they do need a little bit of head. What I like to do is I replace the locking tuners and I install these Fishman Fluence Classic Humbuckers. Now, they need a treble bleed as well for me. So this is why I thought I'd do a video on treble bleeds. And there's two reasons why I really want to do that. One, just to show you how to do it, because it is actually really straightforward, really simple. And the other is to sort of dispel the necessity to buy a pre-made one, perhaps from companies that make them, because they're just so straightforward to make and cheap as well. So before we get into the different types of treble bleed, let's just look a little bit about how you actually install one, because it is the most straightforward thing. So before we talk about the different types of treble bleed, let's have a look at where they go in the guitar. So let's say this is your volume pot inside the guitar. It's usually fairly easy to find, this thing. And typically with your volume pot on the guitar, you've got these three tabs where you can connect various things. Typically this one on this end will be bent backwards like this, and it will be soldered to the casing of the pot, which means that side of the that side of the pot is grounded. Now, here's the thing to understand about volume pots, or any potentiometer for that matter. You basically have got two potentiometers in one. Now, what happens is this little center pin here is effectively the output of the pot, and either side of this is effectively an input. Yeah, either one of these tabs, either side of it is an input. And what happens when you sweep the volume pot, what happens when you sweep the knob rather, is it takes signal from one side to the center tab, and as you turn the knob it decreases it on this side, but it increases it on this side. So imagine it's kind of like a seesaw going back and forward at one end or the other, and the center point is the pivot of the seesaw is this center tab here. So as you turn the knob, you're increasing the signal from one side and decreasing the signal from the other. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the practical upshot of that is basically when you ground out one side of this, you're not going to get anything from that side ever. So if you turn that all the way down, so you've lost all the signal from one side, you're definitely getting nothing from the other side as well, because it's grounded out. So that's how you have a volume, that's how you make a volume pot work like a volume pot. It basically just turns all one side down without feeding in anything from the other side. But that's why potentiometers are useful, because you can do two things with them effectively, and you can use them as a blend, for example. If you want to blend what signal coming in from one side and the signal coming in from the other. It's probably more straightforward than I'm making it sound, but I hope that's a reasonable enough explanation. Where does a treble bleed go? Well, this side, like I say, on a volume pot is typically always grounded to the pot. So you've got these two pins to play with, and a treble bleed simply goes between these two pins. As you wipe the potentiometer down, as you turn it down, it's obviously turning the signal down. But if you add a capacitor in there or a treble bleed in there, and we'll talk about what constitutes a treble bleed in a second, that changes the characteristic of how that action happens, of how that sweep happens. So let's talk about the different types of treble bleed. There are basically 4 types of treble bleed, and typically treble bleeds are made up from 2 components. One is a capacitor and the other is a resistor. Within each type there's a million options, because you can choose from a whole bunch of different types of capacitor, value capacitor, and a whole different bunch of value resistor as well. My preference really is to sort of sit right in the middle of it all and use what is typically known as the TV Jones treble bleed, which is a 1NF capacitor with a 150k ohm resistor. So anyway, look at this. I've got some components here, and I bought these for dirt cheap. I can't remember where I got them from, but basically there's 10 resistors in there and 10 capacitors in there, and they're all, so I could, if I wanted to, make 10 treble bleeds. I think I paid about £1 each for these, and then, so let me show you how you build one, and then how you install it, and hopefully I might save you a few quid. Alright, so I've got my little cap, and I've got my little resistor. So we're going to do this in parallel, and you can, so basically we need this to be like this. Alright, so I don't know if you can see what I've done there, but I've just basically twisted the resistor legs around the legs for the capacitor. Looks like a little stick man, doesn't it? Oh, hello, I'm Mr. Treble Bleed. How are you today? I'm going to chop his arms and legs off now. He's not going to like that. I'm going to solder this up. I'm just going to put a little blob of solder here, a little blob of solder there, and then those 2 components are locked together and not going anywhere. Alright, so there we go. We've soldered it in. Not the best, neatest job in the world. Let's chop Mr. Treble Bleed's arms off. Oh no, don't do it. Oh no. Yes, and the other side as well. So the next step is to, inside the guitar, get this hooked up to the 2 points on the volume pot that I showed you earlier. Right, so we've got it installed, and I don't know if you're going to even be able to see this because it's quite delicate in there, but just there is where I've installed it. Only takes a minute if you know what you're doing. Dead easy. Don't spend more than you have to. Go and buy your own components. There's lots of cool places to buy even a single resistor if you want. Let me see if I can just demo what that's done. There's no, we got full volume. Roll that volume back a little bit. So we've lost a little bit of volume, but tonally it still sounds really nice. Keep rolling down to about half now. Again, we've still got a really nice tone. But, like I say, because it's a treble bleed, it has affected the sweep characteristics. So we keep going from about half, you get to about 3, between 2 and 3, and you suddenly get a real drop off in volume, and it's almost quite sudden. Anyway, works for me, and I like the sweep of that pot. I like having all that gain to pull out before I finally drop in actual volume. But here's the thing, this is the point of this, right? What a treble bleed can do for you is it can modify the characteristic of your volume pot to work exactly how you want it to. Your volume pot is as much part of the instrument as anything else. And if your volume pot isn't really doing it for you, or you think you've got a bad one or something like that, just try a treble bleed on it. I mean, if the pot characteristic isn't working for you the way it is, then perhaps a treble bleed is the way forward, because it will change the characteristic of the pot. Perhaps more than buying a different pot and hoping that what you get is what you're looking for. So yeah, anyway, I guess the message of this one is don't spend too much money on stuff you can do yourself. Have fun, experiment. So anyway, thanks for watching, come again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave comments and all that stuff. And yeah, don't forget to go and pick up a copy of this marvellous book, and I'll put a link in the description below where you can go and buy that too. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you again, bye.